Deep in the most remote gorge on Earth, surrounded by some of the tallest mountains and deepest valleys on the planet, China is planning something that no country has ever attempted. A dam so powerful it would generate 3 times more electricity than the current world record holder. A tunnel so long it would stretch the same distance as the underwater channel connecting England to France. A project so geopolitically sensitive that it sits directly on a contested border between 2 nuclear-armed nations that have already fought each other within living memory. And China is not just planning it, it is already moving. Welcome to Big Check Energy. Why China needs this to understand why China is even considering something this extreme. You need to understand the scale of what China is dealing with. China consumes twice as much electricity as the United States, 8 times as much as Russia. And that demand keeps rising as the country industrializes further and moves hundreds of millions more people into urban energy-consuming lifestyles. Right now, the majority of that electricity comes from burning coal. Coal is the dirtiest way to generate power that exists at industrial scale. And as China pushes toward its net zero commitments while simultaneously needing more electricity every year, the math creates a problem that has only one realistic solution at the scale required: hydroelectric power. And specifically, the most powerful untapped hydroelectric site anywhere on the surface of the Earth. The Yarlung Tsangpo Gorge, the Tibetan Plateau, sits at an average altitude of over 4,500 meters. It covers an area 5 times larger than France. The glaciers and ice fields covering it feed the most important rivers in Asia, including the Indus, the Ganges, the Mekong, and the Yarlung Tsangpo. Half the world's population depends on rivers that originate on the Tibetan Plateau. China sits at the source of all of them. The Yarlung Tsangpo is where China is focusing its attention. It is the highest major river in the world, beginning at the Yangtze Glacier and flowing over 1,000 kilometers east before turning sharply south toward India and Bangladesh. Along the way, it passes through a gorge that is 3 times deeper than the Grand Canyon, one of the most biodiverse and least explored regions on Earth, where scientists are still discovering new mammal species using camera traps. At the heart of this gorge is what makes this site extraordinary. As the river curves around the 7,700-meter Namcha Barwa Mountain in a massive arc called the Great Bend, it drops more than 2,000 meters in altitude within 100 kilometers. That is the steepest descent of any major river on Earth. And it is where China plans to build a 60-gigawatt super dam. How they plan to do it, the project's power, does not come from building a massive wall of concrete the way the Three Gorges Dam works. It comes from a completely different engineering approach. The plan, as best as can be determined from government documents and statements from Power China, the company reportedly in charge of construction, is to bore a tunnel directly through the Namcha Barwa Mountain, cutting straight across the Great Bend. Water would enter the tunnel at the top of the descent, travel 40 to 50 kilometers through the mountain, and emerge thousands of meters lower on the other side, passing through a series of up to 9 separate hydroelectric facilities on the way down, generating electricity at each stage. The principle is called run-of-river hydropower. Instead of creating an enormous reservoir, the water is redirected from a high point to a low point, and the natural force of that drop generates the power. China uses this approach elsewhere. So does Brazil and the United States. But nobody has ever attempted it at this altitude, in this terrain, with this volume of water, or at anywhere close to this scale. The result would be 300 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity per year. The Three Gorges Dam, currently the most powerful dam on Earth, generates 100 billion. This project would produce 3 times that output, enough clean electricity to power the entire United Kingdom for a full year, generated continuously, from a single site. The risks are extreme here is where this project stops being an engineering story and becomes something more serious. The Yarlung Tsangpo Gorge sits directly on the Indo-Tsangpo Suture Zone, the geological boundary where the Indian tectonic plate collided with the Asian plate over 50 million years ago. Those 2 plates are still grinding against each other. The seismic activity in this region is not occasional. It is constant and severe. In 1950, the region experienced an earthquake measuring 8.6 on the Richter scale. Tremors were felt in Kolkata. Water disturbances were recorded in England and Norway. The earthquake triggered landslides that blocked the Yarlung Tsangpo for 8 days. When that natural dam finally broke, it sent a 7-meter wave downstream that killed over 500 people. Similar scale earthquakes have occurred multiple times in the 20th century alone. The question is not whether another major earthquake will strike this region. The question is when. And if it strikes after this dam is operational. The downstream consequences for millions of people in India and Bangladesh would be catastrophic at a scale that is genuinely difficult to calculate. Landslides compound the risk further. In the last 20 years, the river has been blocked multiple times by natural debris. In 2021, a melting glacier fell 4 kilometers into the river upstream from the Great Bend. The blockage was visible from satellites. A small dam failure in a Himalayan region killed at least 100 people. This would not be a small dam. The geopolitical reality, the engineering risks are serious. The geopolitical implications may be more serious still. India and Bangladesh share this river. Every drop of water that flows through this gorge eventually reaches Indian and Bangladeshi farmers, cities, and ecosystems that have depended on that flow for thousands of years. Dams do not only hold back water, they hold back sediment. Almost all of Bangladesh sits on sediment carried down from the Himalayas over millennia. That sediment fertilizes some of the most productive agricultural land in the world every monsoon season. A dam that intercepts that sediment flow does not just affect water availability. It affects food production for hundreds of millions of people. India has responded by announcing its own 10-gigawatt dam project on the same river within Indian territory, attempting to create storage capacity before China's project can alter the flow dynamics. That decision helps India but potentially worsens conditions for Bangladesh further downstream. China and India already have a difficult relationship. Border disputes have produced direct military clashes as recently as 2020, when 20 Indian soldiers were killed in hand-to-hand fighting on the Himalayan frontier. Adding control of a shared river to that equation introduces a category of leverage that operates independently of any military or economic negotiation. Upstream control of a river that downstream nations depend on for agriculture. Drinking water and ecosystem stability is not a diplomatic abstraction. It is a physical fact that shapes the terms of every conversation that follows. China has built more dams than any country in history. It currently operates approximately 87,000 of them. The Three Gorges Dam was called impossible until China built it. The infrastructure achievements we have covered on this channel have repeatedly demonstrated that China's capacity to execute engineering projects that other countries dismiss as unrealistic should not be underestimated. But this is different from anything China has attempted before. The most seismically active terrain on Earth. A tunnel through a sacred mountain on a contested border. Downstream consequences for hundreds of millions of people in 2 nuclear-armed neighboring states. And a power output that would redefine what a single infrastructure project can contribute to a national energy grid. Whether this is ultimately a story about clean energy ambition, strategic water control, or the most dangerous engineering gamble in history depends entirely on how the next decade unfolds. One thing is certain. The decision has already been made. The plans are already moving. And the Yarlung Tsangpo Gorge, one of the last truly wild places on Earth, will not look the same when they are finished. Do you think China can actually pull this off? And what do you think the consequences will be for India and Bangladesh? Drop your honest take in the comments below. If this gave you something real to think about, hit the like button and subscribe to Big Check Energy. We will keep tracking this story as it develops. We will see you in the next one.